Hey y'all, I have no idea what's going on with my hair, but I'm back and I have more of your Let's Know Me stories that I'm so nervous to read. As per usual, I picked out 3 stories and we're gonna hop right in. This says, to the man who tried to get into my work and stared me down in the parking lot, let's not meet again. Hi coach, I've been watching the channel since the tea days and I'm finally getting to share my own story. This is a long one and has a lot of details, so buckle up. There's a video included, feel free to add it into this video. Today I, female 20, had my first run-in with a potentially dangerous situation and it has spooked me to my core. To start, a little background. I work at a family-owned pizza chain in my small college town and there are only ever 2 people on shift during the weekdays. Today my coworker, Josh, male 19, and I were getting ready to close. We close at 9 p.m. but start closing duties around 7 p.m. This includes cleaning the kitchen and lobby. Around 7:40 p.m., Josh told me he would start mopping the lobby later. I asked him why not start now, to which he responded that he didn't want anyone to come in and ruin it. As he said that, a man came up to the glass front door, hesitated to open it, and walked away towards another business. I made a joke to Josh saying, "Oh, like him?" We laughed and we forgot about it. Around 8 p.m., I noticed my phone was about to die, so I walk out to my car to get a charger. I walked out on my phone using those few minutes to respond to my friend. I stood by my car for a minute, and once I had the charger, I turned to go back inside. As soon as I got to the front of my car, I looked up and saw the man from earlier standing 5-ish feet away from the open back door. Instantly, I was uncomfortable. I kept my head straight and beelined it to the door. As soon as I got a foot away, I jumped in the building and slammed the door shut. Luckily, the back door had a padlock that locks the door immediately after it closes. I find Josh and tell him what had happened. He immediately goes to the back door and looked outside. The man is nowhere to be seen. Mind you, from the time I shut the door and finished telling Josh what happened, it had been less than 90 seconds. Josh and I come back inside and immediately hear the front door chime. It was the man. I head towards the back and resume my dishes. I hear Josh greet the man, who responds with, "I'm hungry," as he rubs his stomach. Josh says, "You ordering anything?" After the man asks if we have any specials, which we don't, he gives Josh a peace sign and leaves. Okay. He gets in his car and leaves immediately. I look at the time and it's 8:09 p.m. Keep this in mind. Almost half an hour goes by and we get a phone call. Thinking it was a customer, I start my speech. "Pizza place, this is Taylor, how can I help you?" Before I even finish my name, Abby, the owner's wife, interrupts me and asks if everything's okay. I could tell she was upset, so I immediately knew she meant the man. I told her exactly what you just read. She then informs me that she had multiple alerts from all the cameras. So he's like walking around. Oh my god, okay. The next information is what I found out after talking to the owner on the phone. Around 7:45 to 8 p.m., the man went to all of the doors around the building, around 8, and tried opening all of them. Then, after realizing they were locked, he walked to the back of the restaurant and walked up to the ladder to the roof at 7:59. He was on the roof for a few minutes until I came out and walked to my car at 8:03. He got off the roof as I was at my car. In the video, you can see him walk into the frame on the right. The back door is directly in the right corner and the roof entrance is 4 feet next to the door. If you zoom in on me, you can see the moment I see him. I'm about at my driver's side headlight when I slow down for a split second. I decided to walk fast to the door and not look at him. Here are some key takeaways. Number 1, you can see him look at the open door. I'm very lucky he did not go in, especially because I know he could tell I didn't know he was there. 2, the reason he came down the roof is because I came outside. 3, as soon as I get inside, he starts waving his arms, seemingly mad. I can only assume it's because I didn't give him the attention he wanted. 4, I didn't know he was watching me so intensely as I walked past until I watched the video. Creepy. 5, I have the video because the owner came down shortly after our phone call to check the roof. We had a man take boxes out of our dumpsters and put them on the roof in November 2024, so she wanted to see if 1, it was the same person, and 2, if he left anything up there. 6, the man's mannerisms make us all think he was on drugs. He was talking to himself the entire time. 7, he has a bowl cut. The situation still scares me as I'm only typing this a few hours later. This is a reminder to always be vigilant, even if you feel safe. I truly believe if there weren't multiple cameras around the building, I would have had a completely different story. And to end this, to the man who tried to get into my work and stared me down in the parking lot, let's not meet again. And then I don't see the video and they literally put side note, if the video isn't working, please comment and let me know, thank you. And then edit, the video isn't showing up for me, not sure why. So we don't have the video, which I think is fine because honestly, I think it would scare me more if I actually witnessed all of this because your description was scary enough. No, it's so scary and it's so sad that you literally couldn't walk out to your car for 2 seconds without feeling like you were in danger when you're at your place of work. And even if he didn't have bad intentions, it sucks that we always have to question what your intentions are because Most of the time they're not good. But anyways, moving on, this story says, an unwelcomed visitor. Hey y'all, while watching a cjades video today, I realized that I have a Let's Not Meet story to share. My brother moved out to an area in the country when my brother and I were kids. We were about 20 minutes outside of the nearest town in a pretty forested area. To get to our house, you would travel down a series of paved, 2-lane roads spotted with a few houses, some farms, occasional chicken houses, but mostly forest and pastures. On the way, you would pass my grandmother's house, who lived about 3 miles from us. Right before you turned off to our road, on the opposite side of the street was this little run-down house of a man named Red. You would turn onto the gravel road, travel for about a mile, going up a steep hill, taking a turn, going another quarter of a mile until you reached us at the very end of the gravel road. Okay, directions. Few people lived on this road. One man lived at the top of the hill, a family lived just below us near the turn, and another woman lived down an offshoot. Holy shit. Okay, I have a picture in my head, thank you. My brother and I were often home alone. It was such an isolated place, it seemed so safe. One day when I was around 11 and my brother was 13, we were once again home alone. We were sitting in the living room when we heard the rumble of a truck on the gravel. Looking out the large window, we watched an old red pickup truck slowly make its way to our home. This was a little odd. My dad would do mechanic work on the side, so it wasn't unheard of for someone to come to our house, but he usually made sure people stopped by while he was home. And if someone was lost, there were plenty of other places to turn around before finding yourself at what was an obvious dead end. We noticed the truck didn't have a hood, so we thought that perhaps somebody had been directed to my dad and just decided to show up for mechanic help without calling first. This was around 2001, well before most folks had cell phones, much less before there were cell phone towers here. My brother decided to go out and see what was going on while I stayed in the house. I watched from the window as he went to the truck's passenger window and briefly spoke. He came back in, clearly on edge. He handed me a knife from the kitchen knife block and said I should go hide in our parents' closet. There's something not right about him, he said. He couldn't answer my questions, he didn't seem to know where he was. He barely looked at me, and when he did, his eyes were bloodshot. He had a gun sitting across the seat. Oh my god. I hid while my brother watched from the window holding another knife. This being a rural area, it was common for someone to have a gun. My brother said it was a small caliber rifle, so while a little startling, it wasn't unusual. It was mostly the stranger's behavior that concerned us. A short while later, the man drove off. We thought that was the last of it. Just as we were shaking off the creepiness, we heard the truck again. My brother pointed back down the hallway and told me to get down. The living room windows were low enough that the man might be able to see me while standing. He, again, hunkered down by the window and called our grandmother. She told him to call the sheriff and gave him their number. He called and made the report while the man sat in his truck. He sat and waited, watching the man in the truck. It was parked parallel to our house, and the man just sat, staring out to a pond in the woods beyond. My brother said it seemed like he sat there for hours, but it was probably just a few minutes. Then he backed up and drove away. A short while later, my grandmother's husband drove up to take us to their house. My grandmother had a police scanner in her house, and she heard the dispatch send an officer after my brother's call. A short while later, there was more chatter. The man in the truck had driven back up the gravel road, crossed the paved road, and arrived at Red's house. Evidently, he and Red had been in some dispute regarding property and chickens or something. When the man arrived, he stepped out of the truck, walked up to the house, holding his gun. Red saw the man, grabbed his own gun, and fired at the man just as he approached the door. The man survived the shooting, but was blinded as a result. Red, afraid of retribution, skipped town. Over the years, we've watched this house slowly decay more and more. Now it's little more than foundation and some scrap pieces of the frame, still clinging to the idea that it once provided shelter. As a kid in a rural area where nothing ever happened, this was big news. More personally though, it really shook the sense of safety that my brother and I had. I'm sure it made my parents rethink the same. If something had happened, we would be so far from our neighbors, I doubt they would have even heard us scream. And it would have taken such a long time for the police to arrive, provided they didn't get lost on the way. I talked to my brother about this to make sure I had the details correct, and he said he still shares this story when people talk about how much safer it is in the country as compared to the city. So, to the man who drove up to the home of 2 latchkey tweens, possibly with the intent of murdering some other person, let's not meet. The fact that your brother went out there in the first place, he's so brave for being 13. But also I think about it, if I was like home alone with my sibling and there was a weird person, like I've done that before. I've gone up to and like confronted somebody who was being weird because I would do anything for my siblings. And thank God he was like, okay, go hide. And he grabbed a knife and was like keeping watch. Like, your brother's a saint. Like I was kind of just saying, you never know if people have bad intentions. And the fact that you found out that this man actually had bad intentions, maybe not towards you necessarily, but you never know, because what if he was like mad at your brother for coming up to him? Like, I don't fucking know. That is so scary. Okay, this is the last story. It says, to my creepy, violent neighbor, let's not meet. I want to say too, this one might be difficult for me to read only because there's no like spacing in it. It's just one giant paragraph. So this is just a reminder, if you're going to submit a story, please just break it up into paragraphs, even if it doesn't need to be necessarily. It just makes it a lot easier to read. But we're gonna do this. I'm convinced that my neighbor is going to turn out to be a serial killer. Everything I've experienced with him is like some shit you would see in a stereotypical murder documentary. And I feel like I have to get this story out there in case one needs to be made about him. I live in a very small town with my mom, 3 younger siblings, and 2 dogs. My neighborhood consists of a few houses and a bunch of rundown apartment buildings. Around 3 years ago, a boy moved into one of the apartment buildings across from our house with his mom and stepdad. We'll call him Gerald for the sake of the story. A girl, we'll call her Ariana, also lived in that apartment building, and me and my siblings would play with her all the time. Gerald eventually became friends with Ariana, and we started all playing together as a group. There were 6 of us. We were all pretty close in age, Gerald being the youngest at 10, me being the oldest at 14. This may have just been me being judgmental, but I could tell immediately that Gerald was a fucking freak. He was extremely nerdy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'd say I'm pretty nerdy myself, but everything about him was just weird. He was obsessed with guns, swords, and anything that revolved around violence. He told us his mom and stepdad were constantly working, so he was always bored, and appreciated finally having friends to play with. We put up with him for 2 years for the sake of Ariana, but him being around never sat right with me, and I would say our dogs felt the same way. No, dude, animals, no. Our dogs are incredibly friendly and happy to meet new people. The younger one is a Mastiff, and the older one is a Pit Bull. They loved Ariana and would greet her whenever she came to our house, but Gerald was a whole different story. Both dogs, especially our Pit Bull, took every opportunity to try and attack or bite him. Me and my siblings tried to explain our disdain towards Gerald to our mom, but she summed it up to him being on the spectrum and that we were overreacting. No matter what we were doing, whether it was playing football, basketball, volleyball, Gerald was incredibly competitive and took every game way too seriously. If he didn't win, he would just get angry, so we eventually just started losing on purpose to get him to shut up. As we started turning into teenagers and hitting puberty, we spent less time playing outside, which I could tell made Gerald mad. My mom caught Gerald on multiple occasions, standing either in our front yard or driveway, watching us for like half an hour at a time through the windows. He would also start shooting his Nerf gun at our house and leaving his toys all around the neighborhood. At this point, our mom started to understand why we didn't like Gerald and told us to stay away from him, but she definitely didn't have to tell me twice. One time when my best friend and I went outside to smoke, Gerald came out and challenged us to a sword fight. We were reluctant at first, but obliged since he said he was going to tell on us for stealing my mom's cigarettes. We both grabbed one of his Minecraft swords and started swinging them at him, not taking the fighting seriously at all, but this made Gerald super angry, so he started throwing rocks at us. We started screaming and booked it straight back to my house, and that was the last time I actually had interacted with Gerald. Not long after this, Ariana told us she was moving out of town, meaning we would be left alone with Gerald since we were the only other kids in the neighborhood. After Ariana was gone, a letter and flowers appeared on our doorstep for my sister. It was from the one and only Gerald himself. He confessed his love for my sister in great detail. Mind you, they're both 13 at the time, but he was writing to her like she was some sort of goddess that he had known for a lifetime. This made my sister incredibly uncomfortable. She started crying and threw both the letter and flowers away because she wanted nothing to do with him. After the whole peeking through our window situation we had previously, my mom said my sister wasn't allowed to be outside by herself, and later finding out that Gerald had such feelings for her, I'm glad our mom made us follow that rule. Now, this is where everything goes downhill, as if it wasn't bad enough. I'm assuming since Gerald wrote my sister a letter, he was expecting one back from her where she confessed her love for him. But of course, he didn't receive one. This rejection was probably some sort of breaking point for him because just a few days later, my mom calls me down to the living room and is pointing out the window. I look out and see Gerald sitting in the back of an ambulance with blood stains on his clothes, just staring in the direction of our house. His apartment building is maybe 200 feet from our house, so my mom and I just sat and got a good view of what was happening until he was driven away. We had no clue what had happened, but of course my mom, being the nosy person she is, decided to ask around and eventually talked to Gerald's next door neighbor, who had directly talked to Gerald's stepdad. He explained that Gerald pulled a knife on his mom, threatening to kill her, and ended up slicing her with the kitchen knife he had, hence the blood on his clothes. My mom told me about what she had heard, but didn't want me to tell my siblings, so I didn't. I didn't see Gerald after that for months and didn't expect to see him for a while after what he had done, even though he was just 13. It was extremely peaceful and relaxing not having Gerald up our asses trying to come play every day, especially over the summer. I'd honestly forgotten about Gerald at this point until me and my mom were headed to Walmart a few weeks ago. We had just left our house, and as we made a sharp turn, I see Gerald walking out of the woods with a small black garbage bag and a pocket knife. I immediately started basically screaming out of shock and told my mom what I had seen. She thought I was lying, but I swore on my grandmother's grave that I was being so serious. When we got home from Walmart around an hour later, I ended up explaining to my sister why Gerald was gone for all those months and how he's back, and I saw him in the woods. A woman who lives in the apartment complex right next to Gerald's got a new cat a few days ago because her previous cat just went missing. Me and my sister are now convinced that Gerald killed this poor woman's cat, and that's why he was carrying that garbage bag and knife throughout the woods. I firmly believe that in the future, Gerald is going to be on the news for hurting people. He hurt his fucking mom. Why is he like out? I haven't seen Gerald since that Walmart trip a few weeks ago. Haven't seen his mom or stepdad either, but for the sanity of me and the safety of my sister and dogs, Gerald, let's not meet again. It's only gonna escalate, and you know that, but it's also so hard because it's like it's your child. Oh my god, that's so fucking scary, but the fact that he actually stabbed her, sliced her, whatever, and didn't really face any consequences for it, I don't care that he's 13, I don't care. This is like why we have people out in the world who are doing horrific things, because we don't take it seriously when they're young. And releasing them back is just giving them permission to do it again. All right, that's all I have for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other weird, creepy, scary stories that you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. I'm gonna ramble a little bit at the end of this, just a tad. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. I know this is going up much later, but this is the first video I am filming after my birthday, and I'm officially 30. It honestly feels weird as fuck to be like, I'm 30, because I don't feel, nor do I feel like I act like I'm 30. I feel like I'm like a baby. That's such a stupid thing to say, but it's weird. It's so bizarre. Like the night before my birthday, I was like laying awake and I'm like, God, that's fucking insane. Like, I feel like I just turned 21. Like, I don't know. It's so weird how like slow but fast time goes, because in the moment everything feels kind of slow, especially during like the hard times. And I feel like my 20s I struggled a lot with my mental health, and so I feel like during all of that struggle it felt like time was going so slow. It felt like things would never get better, and now I'm in such an amazing place. And like obviously bad things still happen, whatever, but mentally I'm in like a really good place. And it's just crazy because I feel like I was just 21 and just 24 and just 26, and now I'm fucking 30, which is just insane to say. I'm like, oh my god, I'm 30 years old. This is like not where I expected to be in life at 30, but also I'm like, I'm like so happy with my life. It's just bizarre. Oh my god, it's crazy. It's also weird too because I feel like over the last couple weeks I've had so many interactions with strangers who are like, I don't know, asking me like how old I am, and I tell them like, oh, I'm about to be 30, and they're like, huh? I know I like look young for my age. At least that's what everyone tells me. I don't think 30-year-olds are like old and like disgusting. Like, I don't know why everyone is always, I had a lady tell me the other day I look great for my age, and I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? You don't just get old and gray when you turn 30. I'm like, I'm a couple days out of my 20s. I don't know. I hate that shit though, because I'm like, what am I supposed to look like? But I feel like I look younger than most people would expect, is like what I mean. Like, I had a lady the other day, like, who was hosting like a wine event and was asking me and my boyfriend if like we wanted to come. She's like, well, you're over 21, right? And like my boyfriend's like giggling, we're laughing because yes. And she was like, what? Like, how old are you? And I was like, I'm gonna be 30 soon. And she was like, shut the fuck up. But I've had that happen a couple times recently where they're like, girl, I like don't believe you. And I don't believe it either, honestly. I'm like, who's 30? But it's also insane because you guys, I've been doing YouTube for almost 10 years. And I think that is probably one of the craziest things. I think I started YouTube when I was 21. I'm not 100% sure. I could have started when I was 20, so I could be like in year 10, but I think I was 21 when I like officially started doing YouTube, but again, I could be wrong. And I have so many of you who like message me, or even people whose like names on like Instagram, whatever, that I recognize from back when I was in like a Minecraft fandom on Twitter. And it blows my mind that I have had so many of you here for so long. I'm like, holy shit, You guys must really like me. And it just, I don't know, it like means so much to me to have people who have watched, like reading those stories and people are like, I've been watching since T, like I've been watching since the Ouija board and stuff like that. It's just like mind-blowing to me that I could have people who have basically taken this whole journey with me, and you guys have watched me go through so much. And I definitely don't share nearly as much as I used to online, but I still share like a lot of stuff. Like I share a lot about my mental health. I share a lot about like fun little stupid stories, whatever. You guys have like grown with me, and I think that's amazing. Like I had a girl who bought from me like on Depop who messaged me that she started watching me when she was like 13 and she's 22 or something absolutely insane. And I was like crying because like you grew up watching me and like you still like me. And I don't know. It's just bizarre. It is so surreal to me that like I'm like literally gonna cry. It just like means so much because I know that there were points like in my like YouTube like, oh my god, shut the fuck up, stop. There were points in my YouTube career where I was so incredibly like depressed and could barely get myself to like film a video, and you can see it. Like I've gone back and watched old videos and you can like tell the times where I feel good and the times that like I feel like awful and like mentally, because I mean you can just tell in the tone of my voice. And it's like you guys stuck with me even through those times. Those videos are fucking hard to watch. They're depressing as hell. I'm like monotone, no emotion. It's so sad. And I'm thankful that I'm out of that place, but I'm just like, I could never thank you guys enough for all of the love and support you've given me over the last like 9 or 10 years, and that you continue to give to me. Like, you guys are amazing. Like when I say that I love you guys, I like genuinely fucking mean it. And I wasn't even expecting to get like emotional right now. I was literally just gonna tell you it was my birthday, but now I'm like, bah! Now I'm just venting my feelings to you. But what else is new? Oh god, I've been rambling for a while. This is like a 40-minute video. And I don't know how much of that is rambling and how much of that was the actual video, so shit. I should probably shut up. But again, I seriously love you guys so much. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for all the birthday wishes. Thank you for being here, and thank you for loving me for who I am. Why did I sing that? I love you a lot. So much. And I would sit here and just say I love you 5 million times, but I'm sure you don't care to hear it. Or maybe you do. I don't know. But I love you. I love you. Okay. See ya.